Hello everybody and welcome to another teacher talk sessions tonight. Okay, and tonight we have a very special guest from the USA, and Patrick Randolph. And he is an ESL lecturer and also teacher trainer and more than 20 years. So he is a very educational person, and tonight he is going to be with us. And he is also the creative ideas for ESL's Instagram page and a YouTube page he has got. And he is a very active teacher trainer and ESL lecturer. And if when he comes, we are going to start our session. I'm sure that it's going to be a very, useful sessions with Mr. Randolph. And I'm waiting for him to come. Let me look at if he's here. When he comes, we are going to start quickly. I'm really looking forward to listening to him. Yes, he is here. I think yes, he is here. Hello, Mr.
Hello.
Randolph. Welcome to Teacher Talk session. I think
Thank you.
we should say good afternoon to you because I think it's around 1 o'clock. I think in the USA.
Yeah.
And it's 9 o'clock. It's 9 p.m. here. It's evening time in Turkey.
Time to
So
sleep.
yeah, actually, we have still time to sleep, but it's okay. I think in Turkey, it's a great time to join this session and listen a very, important educator like you, Mr. Randolph. So, and me and also other audiences and are very, very, looking forward to listen to you tonight. And I hope it's going to be and not hope, I'm sure it's going to be a very, educational night, and also for you a day over there. Okay, Mr. Randall, how are you?
Good. Very good. Very good. It's
Very
it's it's
good.
sunny and bright
Wonderful.
here and a little chilly. So
Yeah, it's
uh,
same here in Turkey. Sometimes it becomes a little cold, but it's okay. And so far, so good, the weather in Turkey here. And so, Mr. Randolph, if you're ready, but by the way,
huh?
before start the session, I would like to thank you to accept my invitation and join Teacher Talk sessions. And so I'm really happy to have you in this live sessions tonight. And for
Eh,
you, okay,
It's
of
my
course.
pleasure.
Wonderful. Okay, so I think you are ready, Mr. Randolph, and can we start now?
Sure. Sure.
Okay, so, Mr. Can you tell us about yourself, please?
Yes. I originally in terms of teaching English as a second or third or fourth or fifth or sixth language, um, I didn't go into it directly. I actually wanted to teach philosophy at the university.
Mm-hmm.
And so, so I was training, just about ready to get my degree, graduate degree in philosophy, and I met a group of Japanese teachers, and I was tutoring them in English, and I thought, wow, this tutoring is a lot of fun because I can use kind of the logical order that I learned in philosophy, and yet
Yeah.
I'm teaching something that I know, which is English. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I'd always wanted to go to Japan. Mainly, my mom and dad had influenced me as a young boy. My dad had worked over there, and they always talked about it in a very interesting, intriguing way. And I thought I'd like to get to Japan. So long story short, I was about ready to finish my MA in philosophy when I applied for what's called, are you familiar with the JET program?
Not much, but I heard about it.
Okay, it's the Japan Exchange Teaching Program. So I think it's changed now. When I was on it, you could stay for a maximum of 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
But I was very lucky because my contract got renewed for 5. So I stayed there for 5. So what happened was the group of Japanese teachers that I was tutoring said, hey, if you're interested in Japanese culture and you'd like to teach English, you should try to teach in Japan. And I mean, it was very competitive. There were, about 800 people applying the year that I was doing it, and only about 80 of those were going to make it.
Wow.
And so luckily, I was actually put on an alternate list, and I was very, very upset. I thought, oh shoot, I'm not going to make it to Japan. And then I'll never forget, it was May 27th, 1994, and I got a phone call saying that I was accepted into the program. So I started teaching in Japan there for the first 5 years. So I was teaching K through ninth grade. I mean, mainly I was teaching junior high English, but I also would go off into the elementary schools like once or twice a week. So yeah. So I heard your the woman that was on your show recently from Argentina talked. Her focus was games, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And I completely agree with her, because when I taught the games to the children in Japan, they picked the English up just like that. It was amazing. So
yeah, you're right. Yeah, so. You are right, exactly. So the games are important for the kids, as you said, and as the guest from Argentina say, she was also right about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I after 6 years in Japan, actually, as I stayed one more year to work at a private institute, I came back to the States and I thought, okay, I've got my degree in philosophy, but now let me go back to school and get a degree in applied linguistics, because I decided to change the field from teaching philosophy to teaching English as, I don't know what they call it now. It's English as a second language, English as a foreign language, English as an alternate language, English as another language.
Yeah, it changed it changed, quickly changed, as you say.
Yeah. So yeah, that's my background.
Background. All right. So it's actually, you have a really great background, Mr. Randolph. So what I want to, actually my next question is about, can you tell about your experiences in teaching?
Yeah. So the numbers are, when I look at it myself, they're pretty overwhelming, because I think I've taught over 7,300 students from 56 different countries.
Wow.
And that's, ages 5 through 75.
Yeah.
So,
wow. Incredible number.
It's been what I love about the profession is, even though it's been going on, I mean, in this country, TESOL, teachers of English is speakers of other languages.
Yeah.
I think the official, it started in 1966, but
they wrong. Yes.
Yeah, but it's still so new. I mean, there are so many different things that I think what I love about it is, of course, meeting the students from the different countries and getting to know their cultures. But I feel like there's so much more that we can contribute to the profession now. The other day, I was just playing with the idea that two different things. One was, if you go online, you'll see that there are 8 or 9 parts of speech, for example, in English.
Yes.
And I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute, if you're going to include the conjunction like and, but, or, so, you've also got to include the gerund and the infinitive. So suddenly, in about 5 minutes, I came up with a list of about 20 parts of speech that really should be taught. And again, you've been doing it for so long, and in grad school, you're told you should teach it this way. And then you start doing it, but when you start thinking on your own, you realize that there's so much more out there. Another example is, and I maybe this could be another talk for another show, but
sure.
I've actually got a list here that I was working on, and
wow.
The idea is, there are 4 or 5 basic skills that they talk about: reading, writing, speaking, listening, and grammar. Yes. And again, I thought, okay, that's fine as a start, but then I realized, the way I've learned different languages, there are at least 20 skills that if we want to do it right, I mean, this is a good start. It's not, of course, because these are the basic ones, but, teaching things like error correction or creative thinking or critical thinking or nonverbal communication, those have to be as important in the classroom as, speaking, listening, reading, writing, and grammar. So long story short, I just think our profession, I love it because if you're creative, there are so many interesting things you can do for the sake of the student and the teacher. So, yeah.
I see. Great. Wonderful. All right. So, thanks. Can I move? Another question?
Sure.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you, Mr. Randolph. Okay, this question about your experiences. So, what was your favorite moment or experience in your own education?
Okay, so teaching in the classroom or receiving the education?
Actually, you can talk about both. No problem.
Okay.
Let's talk about both. So you have two options. Yeah, you can talk about both.
Okay.
And you're receiving education and in the experience in the classroom. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's kind of ironic because when I was little, my mom and dad were worried about me in terms of my future because they said, Patrick likes getting on the school bus and getting off the school bus. He likes lunch.
Yeah.
he likes lunch.
Great.
That's it. No school. And then, but I always enjoyed watching my mom and dad read. They read so much, and they'd wake up early in the morning, and I'd wake up, and they'd be talking about what they had read and sharing it with each other. And then my life changed in elementary school when I had a really amazing teacher, Mr. Plath, and he was my 5th and 6th grade teacher. And my parents were so excited because instead of not really wanting to go to school, I wanted to wake up early and get to school. So that was kind of a pivotal moment. But one that was always there was my dad and I grew up in northern Wisconsin, which is a very wooded area. If it would be Turkey, it would be like maybe the forests in the Black Sea area near Trabzon or in that area. So very lush green. And my dad and I would, on afternoons, if my mom was at work, my dad and I would take walks in the woods, and he would ask me certain questions, kind of philosophical questions, at the age of 10 or 11, and I would try to answer these. And so the moments of my dad and I taking walks in the woods was a really big educational component that's lasted with me, today. Yeah. In terms of teaching, to answer the other question, there were moments in Japan, again, I think when you're teaching littler kids like K through junior high, there's still that infectious desire to learn. And I would get this occasionally at the university, but the moments that I'm talking about where I think for me, those great moments are when you get a class discussion that's going so well, and you look at your watch and say, okay, I got to get going. We've got to move on to the next thing. But then you say, nope, we're going to stick with this because there's so much energy in the class, and I'll literally get goosebumps on my skin and just get really excited and think, okay, this is what education is all about.
Yeah, it's a very interesting and nice moment. All right. So it's a great moment for you about both your own education and the education in the experience time in your classroom. So, Mr. Randolph, my next question is about your current job. I know that you are not working at any institution right now, but I really wonder. I really wonder, how did the idea come up with from you for creating the creative ideas for ESL? How did you decide to open this Instagram page and a YouTube channel?
Okay, yeah, it's a good question. One, because of the virus and everything, a lot of institutes here in the U.S. have either closed down or working on minimal staff right now. So I'm currently unemployed, but I'm still working a lot trying to set up the YouTube channel, and then continuing writing articles and presenting and whatnot. And it all goes back to the classroom and the students. As you, again, I grew up in an era in the States where my college that I went to, of course, this was back in the 80s, and it was never how much money you're going to make, it's how many people you can help. So it was a small liberal arts college, but it was we want to go out there and change the world and help people, and that was kind of
Great.
and those of us that were creative thought, well, whether it's medicine, education, politics, the arts, finance, whatever it is, science, if we can help make it by the time you wake up when you wake up in the morning, by the time you go to bed, if you can make the world just a tiny little bit better every day, it's great. And so
Great.
with the YouTube channel and the Instagram, it's trying to help teachers that are out there, and that helps myself too, because the more I try to create ideas and get ideas out there, then it comes back to yourself too, that when you get back in the classroom, you'll be a more effective teacher. But a lot of people, the Instagram community has been great, and the YouTube community, because there's a lot of interaction, people helping each other.
Exactly.
And you really do now, because it's a time when you can kind of see how tiny the world's getting by being connected together like this. So it's a huge international classroom now that's out there, and there's so many neat things.
Yeah, definitely, I agree with you. It's a huge, actually it's a great chance for us to use it to communicate with other teachers. I mean,
right.
Yeah, perfect.
Right.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Randolph. My other question is about what are the advantages and disadvantages of working in the USA as an ELT teacher or a language teacher?
Okay, I'll be very honest.
Yeah, please. Yeah, please.
But I think that this might be a worldwide phenomenon. One disadvantage is we're always, in fact, a group of us gave a talk at International TESOL a few years ago on this. It's probably the same way the world over. We're always considered the stepchild. ESL is the stepchild at the university. So instead of ESL being in the same floor as the English department, where you're shifted off to the other side of campus where nobody knows where you're at. I've colleagues around the country, they're either put in the same department as quantum physics, or where I taught formerly, we were in the same department as criminology. So there was one school where I taught, Southern Illinois University, that was great because the applied linguistics was on the same floor as the ESL, and you could work hand in hand with them. So that was great. But so one disadvantage is the universities need you and want you because ESL produces a lot of money for the university. But the moment that they stop producing a lot of money, then they'll throw you under the bus, and they really have no need for you. So there are a lot of institutes now, coast to coast, that have closed in the past 3 months.
Wow.
ESL institutes. So that's one big disadvantage. The other thing is, so right now it's hard to find a job in the States. The advantage of that is, the online world. So now that we talked about the online community, you can connect with more people. Freedom, when you are in the classroom, I think there's a huge opportunity to, you're supposed to teach from A to Z, but how you do that is kind of open to you. So in most of the places I've taught, the programs have been real good, so that they allow that creativity to flourish. I mean, mainly it's probably because the students love it. And so, if the students are happy, they're gonna learn, and it's gonna be, a good image for the institute. So there isn't I don't want to say there isn't a strict curriculum, because there is, in the sense that they have to learn, these certain things in the program. But it's kind of like, have you read the book called The Finnish Lessons? It came out maybe in 2006.
No.
Okay, so it's how the schools in Finland kind of conduct their education, and it's kind of the same policy where they put a lot of trust in the teachers, and they say, okay, teach it however you want to teach it. However, make sure that you do, make sure the students understand, these components in this grade and these components in that grade. But the idea of creativity and exploration is pretty broad. So the good thing here is that you can be creative and do a number of different things. It's just right now the market is very narrow. But it's, you know,
Yeah,
I don't think that we should panic. A lot of places have panicked, but I discourage that because our profession it's like the ocean. I mean, ESL is the ocean because
exactly.
it has its ebbs and flows. You know, there were times when I can just think in the past 25 years since I've been teaching, there
Hmm.
have been at least 5 times that the programs have gone down. But I don't know why there's been such a panic this past time that you know they're literally closing the doors. Some institutes have been open for 40 years and they just closed, you know, last month.
I see.
You know,
Wow.
but I think it'll come back. You know, it's humanity, the world. It's very it bounces
Of
back.
course.
You know,
Yeah, of
so
course, of course.
yeah,
They will, you know, they'll return back just like the normal. But it takes time, I think.
yeah, yeah.
Exactly. Okay. So thank you, Mr. Randolph. My
Mhm.
my next question is it's actually, you know, it's very well known, especially these days, and very popular. What is your opinion about distant learning?
Distance learning. That's a good question. um, because I think people respond to it differently. Um, uh, our daughter, for example, who's she loves to read and she loves the classroom. She's actually doing distance learning this
Mm-hmm.
fall, and she loves it. Um, and I know other kids that uh, are responding positively to it. So
Mm-hmm.
I think it depends on the person, and in some cases, it's the only alternative. You know, um,
Yes.
the I mean, it has its pros and cons because if you have the technology that you can be zoomed into the classroom and learn, that's great. But if you don't have that technology, then of course it's hard because you know there's no technology at home. You can't
Yeah,
do the
you need
distance
to
learning,
find different ways. Mm-hmm.
right? But I mean, I try to look at it in a positive light. That in maybe certain ways there might even be because you know my growing up in the era that I did, technology was something that I tried to understand but was never really very good at. For example, meeting you today online, I wasn't sure how this was going to work out. You know, thanks to my wife, she got everything set up.
Yeah,
But
you are lucky that there's someone that knows about him.
I mean, I think I've given over 140 presentations at you know at TESOL or TESOL
Yeah, of
related, and
course.
most of the time I don't use technology because I'm afraid if I touch it, you know, the room's going to explode. And so I for the longest time I just did handouts and then you know lecturing and
Yeah,
talking
I
and
see.
working the audience. Now recently I've kind of gone to PowerPoint as well because you know there are more people in the room and I want them to get the benefits of images as well as speaking. So that's where I
Mm-hmm.
think technology in that sense really helps. But back to your question, distance learning. Um, I mean, I think in some cases, if it's the only thing that can keep us together, then it's definitely a positive. And like I said, some people respond very well to it. I think it's gotten a lot better now, where like platforms like Zoom, where you can have your you know divide the class up into different rooms and have them chat and whatnot. And because before, like the online learning might have been, you know, just a video popped up and the
Yes.
students would watch the
Uh-huh.
video, or
Yes.
kind of a one way stream. But now with being able to talk with the students and um, you know, as far as not, I mean, there's the detriment of not being together in the classroom, just you know, the sake of humanity being together. But it's good in the sense that at least there's that contact, that visual contact that the teacher and the student can have now.
I
So does
see.
that answer your
Great.
question, or
Yeah, sure.
yeah?
Wonderful. Great.
Yeah.
Thank you. And my other question, again, you know, we know all that the whole world, you know, are in a big, you know, facing a very big problem with
Mm.
COVID-19. So, how the situation with COVID-19 has changed in teaching over there, and what instruments can teachers use there?
Okay, so yeah, that's one question I probably can't answer very well because I'm not in the thick of it right now. In
I
fact,
see.
I just did my first Zoom presentation for mid TESOL a couple weeks ago, and it was all new to me. unmuting and muting and not seeing faces, and I'm talking into a screen and I'm not sure, okay, are they brushing their teeth, or are they, driving down the road, or are they watching me? I don't know. But
Yeah.
so but
I just saw the photo of that TESOL sound, this TESOL, your presentation.
oh, okay.
I saw it.
So yeah, so I think what teachers, I mean, in a way, like anytime that you can learn something new, and challenge yourself and get out of your comfort zone, it's
Mm-hmm.
good. And so, like talking with you now, I mean, because you're a Turk and you're very energetic and lively and warm and friendly, this is great. But in terms of the technology, I'm definitely out of my comfort zone right now. Talking to a screen as opposed to one-on-one, but it's good because I'm learning new things. And so to answer your question, getting back to what teachers can do, I suppose that it's just learning. Number one is getting comfortable with a platform that they feel comfortable with teaching. So pick one of those. I mean, there's so many of them now here in the States. Zoom seems to be the biggest right now, but there's some other ones that I've been in contact with a lot of my colleagues that are either teaching or trying to get back into teaching. And so everyone uses a different platform. Some are Skype, some is the Zoom.
Teams and Google Classrooms.
Yeah, Google Classrooms, right. So my advice would be, find what's ever comfortable for you, and then learn as much as you can about that and use it, until things go back to normal, into the classroom. Although it's interesting too, now that so much has been online. I'm sure that's going to be a whole, because I remember a couple of years ago, this was a few years ago, about 5 years ago, 2015, a friend and I, who actually I wrote a book with, we were sitting down every Thursday. We would go and have an amazing sandwich and a beer at the campus pub, and we would chat about life and school. And at that point, the ESL world, this is 5 years ago now, was kind of starting to decline here in the States. And we wondered at that moment, this was 5 years ago, if it was ever going to get back to the way it was, say, 20 years ago. And because the English teaching, I mean, the US doesn't necessarily have to teach as many international students now because the education programs in other countries has gotten so much better. You've got really, really good teachers in other countries now that are doing a great job teaching English. And so we're not getting as many students because of that. Also, the US dollar was so high for so long. But just like life, you just adapt to the new surroundings. So I think the online world is going to be a lot more important in teaching, to come. And hopefully it'll come back to the point where, they'll be in class, what are they called, hybrid or flex classes now, where you do in class, they're in class and also online at the same time. So, again, does that answer your question, or did I go too far off?
No, it's okay. Great. Thank you, Mr. Randolph. So my other question is, thank you very much. For the question, it's a wonderful answer for that question. So what kind of support do you provide for teachers in this period? I mean, especially from your, we can make it, minimal, from your Instagram account and YouTube account. What kind of support can you provide to the teachers in this period?
Okay. I mean, in a way, now is a really important time, that we can kind of put certain things on pause and dig deep into things. Like I said, one of the biggest things I think we all have to do as teachers is question. I'm going to refer to a movie. Have you ever heard of the movie, the 100-Foot Journey?
The
100-Foot Journey.
No.
No, okay. And I'll just get the long and short of it is, it was an Indian family that ended up in a little French village, and they started a restaurant. Okay.
Yeah.
And one of the lead characters, she's got her own French restaurant, and she takes the young Indian under her wing, and he makes this amazing broth. And there's this scene where she says, "What is fighting against the chicken? I taste this delicious something is fighting against the chicken." And he said, "Oh, I put one of my mother's spices into the sauce." And she said, "But we've made this sauce for 200 years. Why change it now?" And he looks at her and he says, "Maybe 200 years is long enough." You know. So the idea that we've been doing things so long in one way, but now might be a chance to kind of stop, back up, and say, okay, maybe we should be doing it differently. Like I said, the other day, I was thinking about the 8 or 9 parts of speech, and I thought, well, really, to be honest to the students, that can be expanded to 20. Or the 4 or 5 basic skills that are taught in this country, at least from coast to coast, those could be expanded to 25. Not taught simultaneously, of course, but during the course of a semester. Mm-hmm. So one thing that you could get just teachers to think about is, how can they convey the material in a creative and fun and exciting way, and it might be different than what they were taught, and it might require getting out of that comfort zone. But that's one thing. In terms of support, learning something about the online world. In some cases, that's kind of gone by now, because I know a lot of my friends were panicking last April and May because suddenly they had to switch from in-class to online. So a lot of people now are completely fine with that, and it's old news to them. And so, but with me, now I'm starting to get into it. So one would just be getting new ideas out there, or if there's something that has worked for you, continue using it, maybe dig a little deeper. There are 3 components that I really thought should have been stressed to everybody in this country during COVID last fall, or spring rather. And it's something that we never ever talk about in the teaching profession, really. But I think it's something that I would stress to teachers as a teacher trainer, or as a teacher myself. And you might look at me now and say, what is he talking about? Because it has nothing to do with teaching, really, but it does. And that's, if teachers could at least, and maybe a lot of them are probably doing this already, but to really think about things like exercise, yoga, diet, meditation, and mindfulness. So diet, exercise, yoga, mindfulness, and meditation, because those are things that are really, really going to help you in the classroom, whether it's online or in person. And I was surprised in this country because, when the pandemic hit, for example, we were talking about, face masks and social distancing, which is great, and that's fine. But I think keep doing that. But to add to that, one more step is get people out there doing the yoga and doing the mindfulness and the meditation and doing, making sure they get their daily exercise in. And one thing that I would always talk to my students about this, but I don't know how many of my colleagues did, was their diet. If they're not putting the right medicine or the right vitamins in their system, are they going to be able to sit in the classroom and focus? So I think diet is a big thing too. So.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah, everybody, we should do that. We should relax, find the time and find, the place to relax and find an activity to relax. And you mean this, I think, to us. Great. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Randolph. Yeah. And so someone written by being personally self-actualized in turn positively affects on teaching. Yeah.
Oh yeah. That's a great point. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Because
Thank you, Mr. Dolitze.
Yeah. There's you've heard of the famous line that a psychiatrist can only help his patients or her patients to the point at which they're developed. So if the psychiatrist isn't really developed, they're not really going to help their patients. And the same thing is with the teacher. The more the teacher is developed in different realms, the more they'll be able to help their students.
Yeah. Okay, great. thank you, Mr. Randolph. My other question is about like activities. Like, what kind of activities can you suggest to the teachers to use in this period?
Okay. Activities as in during the online,
I mean,
or
yeah,
just
online.
any.
Yeah, can be for right now. I think it's online is much better
Mhm,
for online lessons.
mhm.
Okay.
I mean, one crucial thing that is really, really important is whether it's, I think it kind of goes across all barriers. So whether it's online teaching or in-person teaching, is for us to, I mean, it's kind of um, self-explanatory and very logical, but the more that teachers can tap into and use educational neuroscience, elements in neuroscience, cognitive psychology, or educational psychology, the better. There's one acronym that I've actually, it's a long acronym, but I'll just give you an example of a
Uh-huh.
shortened form of it. Is called what I call PIES, like
Mm-hmm.
the eating pies, but it's PIES, and
Yes.
it stands for personalization of the material,
Mm-hmm.
interest in the material, using emotions and
Yeah.
senses. So
Senses.
PIES is personalization, interest in the material, using emotions and
Yes.
senses. And by senses, I
Mm,
mean,
great.
using color, using tactile senses, auditory,
Mm-hmm.
taste, smell,
Mm-hmm.
and those elements in teaching. There's so much out there now. There's a field in this country that started quite a few years ago called educational neuroscience. And the
Yes. Uh-huh.
funny thing was, just the different ways that I would pick up a language and try to learn it. I had these little games in my mind, and then I started using them when I was teaching English, and the students really responded positively. And I wanted to write articles and present on it, but I thought, well, this is just something kind of strange that I do. I wonder if I can support it with any research
Yes.
or theory. And
Mm-hmm.
it was just a perfect fit. Was I started getting involved in. I didn't even know there was a discipline called educational neuroscience. I knew of neuroscience, but I didn't know there was something called
Education.
educational neuroscience. And I thought, well, that's what I've been doing for the past 25 years is educational neuroscience. I just didn't know it.
You just realize it.
And so,
I
but,
see.
and there's a lot out there for teachers.
Yeah.
If they wanted to get introduced, later on, I don't know if you could give your Instagram community my academia.edu site, because I've got a bunch of articles out there that use things like embodied cognition or embodied
Uh-huh.
semantics or mirror neurons in how I teach different things in the classroom.
Yeah.
But so I would just recommend, there's a lot out there that's not, there's a great book called Brain Rules. So
Brain rule. Uh-huh.
yeah, in fact, I think I've got, here's the title of it is Brain and then Rules. And so that it's got a lot of really interesting ideas. I mean, the subtitle of the book is, for parents, teachers, and educators and business people,
Yeah.
12 principles for enhancing your life. But I think teachers can really benefit from it because it's got some really good chapters on music and learning, long-term memory, short-term memory, using the senses and emotion
Mm-hmm.
and personal experiences. So anything, I mean, it all comes down to, in my mind, one thing is how do you, one of my favorite professors in college, the most important thing he ever said to me was, he said, when you go out and teach, he said,
Yes.
unless you can throw the problem so it lands in your student's lap and they have to struggle with it, then don't even teach it. And so just that whole idea,
Wonderful.
you've got to make
Great.
it personal. Yeah, make it personal, make it something that they want to embrace, and they're interested in. And so
Mm-hmm.
in any way that you can do that, will be positive. And I think, using the emotions and the senses and interest, personalizing it, having the students own
Wonderful.
it,
I see.
is
I see.
is is positive. So
Yeah. Thank you. Great.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Randolph. So my other question is about teachers. And
Mhm.
what do you think about the teachers' professional development?
Oh, yeah, it's so important. I mean, I, I can't say enough about it. I was looking over some old notes the other day, and I was really disappointed when I saw. Um, I was just doing some little research, and there were 12 job ads in
Hmm.
the States, and
Yes.
only it's 12 or 15. No, there were 15 job ads in the States, and only three of those in the job ad said, we also, along with your teaching and your mentoring, we also want you to be involved in professional development. And I was
Hmm.
kind of discouraged to see out of 15 job ads, teaching ads, that only three of those, pushed the professional development. That's one thing that I think needs to change. That professional
Wow.
development should be,
The number is so too low, I think.
yeah, yeah. It's not what, yeah. I mean, 3 out of 15 is, um, uh, yeah, it was sad. But because I think for me, um, if you're writing and you're presenting and I think professional development now can even be, and I hope that more places um, would consider this, is a show like you have with inviting teachers on and doing your interviews. I think a lot of people can learn from that, and if people watch
Hmm.
these segments, I think that should be considered professional development too, because they can
Yes,
pick up different things. Um,
definitely.
and
Hmm.
so uh, I think that um, professional development too can be, because I know conferences are getting pricey now, and so a friend and I, this has been about 4 years ago now, we got two states together, so Kansas and Nebraska.
Hmm.
We were able to. It was a $15. That's all it cost, and it was a day where teachers from some schools in Kansas came up to Nebraska, and it was a mini conference. It was only a day, but it was at the end of the semester, and it was a great exchange of ideas. I mean, international TESOL is
Of
great,
course. It's
um,
wonderful.
and but I think the point of it all is, the more that you present and write, again, it
Uh-huh.
all comes back to the classroom. So
Yes, you're right.
the more you write, um, and the more you present, because when you're presenting, at least where I've presented at conferences, I always get a lot of audience feedback, and they'll say, "Oh, have you thought about this?" Or "That's a great idea, but what about doing it this way?" And
Hmm.
I think, "Oh, wow, that's 10 times better than my original idea." And so, just that feedback and that give and take,
Yes.
it makes you much stronger.
Yeah, like
Um,
exchanging ideas, it makes much better. I mean, you mean.
right, right. Mhm.
Great, wonderful. Thank you,
Yeah.
Mr.
Mhm.
Randall. And my other question is about the future of language, the future of language education. What do you think about the future of language education?
I think it's bright if done right.
Very what a sharp answer. Exactly. Perfect. Sure, the sharp answer. Wonderful answer. Can I get it again?
Yeah. I think the future is bright if done right.
Perfect. Great, great, wonderful. Okay, and so I think that's very clear. No need to
Uh,
make it more clear. It's
uh,
wonderful.
yeah. Because
So
I mean,
my
oh, go ahead.
no. Go, please, please.
Oh, I was just, there's so much now, and like we talked about a little earlier, the world is getting
Yeah.
a lot smaller, and the need for learning different languages.
Hmm.
I remember the favorite professor in college I told you about. Um, he said it's nice that you've got Spanish and English down now. He said, but there are five other languages that you need to learn if you want to survive in the next 40 years, and it's amazing. The ones that he said have really become so important in the world right now. And
Yeah.
and so I didn't get a chance to learn all of those, but I'm still working on them. But I think, just to answer your question, I think yeah, languages are so important because you get to know the culture, you get to know people, you get to know different ways of thinking
Hmm.
about things.
Thinking.
And then
Hmm.
going back to neuroscience, they've done so many studies now where knowing at least one other language increases your longevity, or increases your life on Earth so much longer. And I think it's just because it's keeping the brain active. You know, you're looking at how to talk about certain things in two different ways. For you, it's Turkish or in English, or maybe you speak Russian and Polish and German too. I don't know, but
No, I only speak Turkish and English, not other. I don't have time to learn other languages. These are enough right now.
So, but the brain is, it's just keeping it active. It's like any other muscle that, the more languages it knows, the longer I think it can survive. And so, it's a healthy thing to know more languages. And again, like I said, there are more apps out there on learning. They're in class, online. So yeah, I think, like I said, the future is bright if done right. So
yeah, wonderful. Yeah. Wonderful. I really like that sentence. Great. So, Mr. Randolph, my other question, what is your motto?
Motto. Oh, so many.
I was wondering about it, so I was really wondering about it. What is your motto?
Motto. Wow. I guess it depends on the day. But I think keeping it very short and sweet, smile and embrace life.
Wow, nice one.
So,
great.
So there's one thing that I'll just add to that for your viewers out there. If they can do this tomorrow morning, they're going to notice a huge change in their life, and that's when you wake up in the morning, just look down at your body and say, "Thank you." Çok teşekkür ederim. Dankeschön. Gracias. Because the whole thing, when you start your day by looking down and saying, "Wow, I made it through another night. I'm here for another day," it really puts a positive spin on the rest of your day.
Exactly. Yeah. Wonderful. Thank you, Mr. Randolph.
Yeah.
This is my other question is this. So, do you think that the current way of educating children fully prepares them for the needs of the 21st century?
Wow. Huge question.
Yeah. Okay, but you don't need to give a huge answer. So just you can make it the short one, no problem.
Okay. If done right, the future is bright. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Wonderful. I really like it.
So I think how kids are taught now, I think is important. But again, just like with language, if we can take it one step up and get them to use as much creativity if they can, because I think sometimes I joke with our daughter that because she gets so many ideas in the summertime, and we go off and we do this and we think about that, and then we'll jokingly say, "Oh, school starts now," because there's homework and everything else. Sometimes the creativity kind of starts going down. Yeah. And it was the same thing with me. Yeah. I'd in college during the summer I'd be reading all these different things and writing and thinking about things, and then school would start, and now you're focused on your studies. So I think what they're doing now is important with the basic skills, but I think that they need to kind of push the creativity button up a little more, and also get them to really, if there could be a class on observations, like how they can observe things going on, why do they do these things in my culture, why am I doing it? So like cultural observations, language observations, nature observations, classroom observations. But I do a bunch of activities in my classes where I get the students to go out and just observe, and it's based on the whole mindfulness concept of you do it on purpose and in the moment, non-judgmentally, but you take a lot in. And so because there's so much out there precious in life, and I think sometimes we miss that, with the hustle and bustle with life. And so if we can teach the kids to observe things and appreciate what they have,
Mm-hmm.
I was talking, I gave a talk a couple of years ago in Colorado. And during the talk, I said, we were just talking about gratitude and appreciation and thanking things. And I said, how many of us today, when we left the house, looked down and thanked our shoes,
Mm-hmm.
while they were being tied? And a principal that was at at my talk said, wow, he said, he emailed me later and he said, I took your question to my school
Yes.
and we all started talking about the importance of our shoes. We take them for granted. Shoe is a shoe, but it's something that protects your feet, gets you from point A to point B. And if we can just appreciate and find value in those little simple things like that, it changes your whole life.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Okay. So I think there's something with the connection, your connection,
Oh,
Mr. Randall.
okay. Can you
So
see me or?
no, I can't see you. It's turning like this, but I'll invite you again. Just a moment. I'll invite you
Okay.
back.
Mhm.
Just a moment. I'll invite Mr. Randolph again. Sorry for this. There's a connection problem there. Really? Yeah, he comes back, I think.
Okay.
Mm,
So
can you see me?
somebody
I can't.
online said that they can see me.
I think. Can you see me?
Yeah, I can see you and I can see me. So
Okay. I can't see you. I don't know what's the reason, but now it's okay. Now I
okay.
see.
Okay.
All right. So, Mr. Randolph, we are almost coming end of our session.
Ooh,
So
okay.
yeah, it's we really your ideas and your suggestions that were really great. So what I want to ask I have only two last questions. The
Mhm.
first one is, are you ready?
Yes,
For
yes.
okay. So what role do you think government should play in education?
Good question. Um, in certain respects, uh, if they can somehow make more connections, school.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking on the international level now. So if the local government could have, are you familiar with something called sister cities? Sister
Uh-huh.
city. So, for example, it would be, a city in the U.S. takes on a Turkish city, and they become sister cities, and so they have exchange programs with, students and whatnot. Um, so, I think in terms of enhancing global education, if they can do that in some sort of way, it's great.
Mm-hmm.
In terms
Yes.
of policy, I think that they should kind of stay out because I think a lot of politicians don't necessarily know the ins and outs of education unless they've been in the classroom, and they try to
Uh-huh.
implement, they try to implement or put restrictions on things, and they don't really know about it, and it kind of dangers education in that way, I think.
Yeah.
So I think if they can enhance the education so that I had this idea. This was years ago. Back in I told you I was a child, and I was in high school in the '80s, and I gave this talk. It was actually recognized by the United Nations talk, and it was back in the day where you gave a talk and you taped it on one of those wheels, the spinning wheels,
Mm-hmm.
and the basic premise was the only, because this was back when I think that there was there was the conflict between the USSR and the United States. It was kind of
Mm-hmm.
coming to a head, and I thought one way that would completely deflate all of that is if you got so many kids from each of those countries, or each of those, the USSR and the US, and just exchanged, and everybody lived in each other's country, and you'd come back home, there'd be no reason for war because you wouldn't want to hurt the people you lived with, and so I
Yes.
think the more that you are exposed to different cultures, and the more you meet people from other countries, and
Uh-huh.
education wise, it just you're no longer fearful of things that are out there that you don't know about. But sometimes I think, getting back to your question, I know that the government will put certain policies into effect, and it might hurt the kids or the teachers because they don't know those policies, what the ramifications or the consequences of those policies. So in some cases, I think that less is best. If they don't intervene, it's probably healthier. Unless, of course, they're going to expand things and so that kids can get more. Yeah.
I see. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Lee. And we only have 4 minutes to finish it. So, but there's a question here. I would like to see the question. The question comes from Mrs. Dolice. She asked, what would Mr. Randolph suggest for using authentic materials?
Oh yeah, I mean, definitely 100%. The only thing is, make sure that those authentic materials, the students have an interest in them, because if you can use authentic materials in the classroom, and if the students aren't interested in it, it won't fly, right? But but I think I mean, authentic materials is definitely the way to go. I mean, I remember one of the first places I taught, I was given a textbook that was probably about 20 years old. And the students, I didn't even know what they were really talking about, and the students had no idea. And I thought, this lesson is not going to work given this. So I asked the director at the time. I said, "Can I bring in something else?" And they said, "Oh yeah, I think we're about done with that textbook anyway." but yeah, the big thing is to connect with the student, and so if they can provide the material, or you can provide, or I've taught some classes. These are higher level ones where I've got the topic pretty much set in the skill, but I'll have the students bring in things that they want to address during the semester too. If you can do that, you can't always do that, but yeah.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Randolph. Because we have because we have only 2 minutes. And last one is, what would you like to say to all the teachers around the world as your last words for this session?
Take a deep breath. Know that you're important. Know that you're making a difference in the world, and that someday, maybe 90 years later, there's going to be some person that's going to look back and say, that teacher made a difference in my life.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Randolph. I think that's all for tonight. And also, actually, if we have a time, probably we will talk more. But the Instagram provides only an hour for these live sessions. So thank you very much, and thank you very much that you joined, and you bring your bright ideas, suggestions, and your love, and your the priceless time you share with us. Thank you very much. Also, all the audiences that you join and you support us from all around the world. Thank you very much. And yes, Mr. Randolph, that's all.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. So good evening to us, Turkey, and good afternoon to the USA, and good morning, maybe other part of the world, or good night to other around the world who listens to us. And thank you very much one more time to the educators, to our listeners, and also I don't know, maybe you have another job, but you just came here and listened to our lovely live sessions, and you are all important, as Mr. Randolph says. Yeah, and I hope we will leave very important ideas and memories with the mind of our students or the people in the future, as you said. Thank you very much, Mr. Randolph, and talk to you in another day or in another session later. Thank you very much, everybody. Good evening. Good afternoon, Mr. Randolph.
Bye. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.